Welcome to episode 12 of the John Clampett Show. I'm going to be giving my reaction to the November 11th edition of the College Football Playoff Rankings. And yet again, I think the committee got it right. I don't have any issues with the rankings. I got them in front of me. You'll be seeing them on the screen. But yeah, I don't have any issues with the rankings. The committee is being really consistent, and I think the teams are really well ranked, right where they should be. There's a lot of discourse between Notre Dame, Texas, and BYU and where they should be ranked. I think it's fine. I'm going to try to explain a little bit about why I think the committee has them ranked how they are. So Notre Dame, BYU. Notre Dame has 2 losses. BYU has 1. They each have a good ranked win. Notre Dame beating USC, who the committee likes. They're at 17. And BYU beating Utah, who the committee also likes. They're at 13. Notre Dame has the 2 losses by a combined 4 points. They lost basically a last-second field goal against Miami in Week 1, and then they lost by 1 point to A&M, Texas A&M in Week 2. BYU just lost to Texas Tech. So from a resume standpoint, they're pretty similar in that regard. BYU has a more recent loss. Notre Dame has 1 more loss. And where I think BYU is hurt here is the fashion in which they lost and also when they lost. The committee, and when it comes to the college football playoff rankings, has long established, not just this year, but in previous years as well, it is better to lose early in the season than it is late in the season. Notre Dame is riding a 7-game win streak in which they've been dominant in all of their wins. BYU, the latest bullet point or data point that the committee has, was a loss. Also, BYU was not competitive in that loss. They got smoked by Texas Tech, lost by 22. Texas Tech is by far the best team BYU has played this year. Like I said, BYU has a good win over Utah. Texas Tech smoked Utah as well. So that's where BYU is hurt in the comparison between Notre Dame and themselves. Notre Dame has 2 losses by a combined 4 points against 2 of the 3 ranked teams they've played this year. BYU has played 2 ranked teams, beating Utah by 3 and losing to Texas Tech by 22. That's where BYU's hurt there. Now, you compare Texas and BYU. Texas has by far a worse loss than BYU does. Texas is also a 2-loss team, giving BYU just 1 loss. Texas has a loss to 3-6 Florida. That's a terrible loss. And they have a loss on the road against Ohio State, who's the committee's top-ranked team. So the committee is rewarding Texas for scheduling that Ohio State game out of conference. BYU's Week 1 out-of-conference game was against Portland State. They won 69-0, as they should. Texas Week 1 out-of-conference game at Ohio State, who is the best team in the country. Ohio State's basically been practicing, having glorified practices on Saturdays. Texas is the one team that competed with them and came within 2 or 3 plays of actually beating Ohio State. So the committee is rewarding Texas for that out-of-conference game, along with some good wins they have over currently ranked top 15 teams in Vanderbilt, in which they really dominated that game. Vandy put up garbage time points to make it look close. Texas dominated Vanderbilt, and Texas dominated 11th ranked Oklahoma as well. Again, BYU has a good win over Utah, but they weren't competitive against the best team they've played, and that is really what is hurting BYU in terms of their comparison to Notre Dame and Texas, and the committee is reflecting that. So that's kind of what I think is happening with those three teams. There's also discourse between Notre Dame and Miami and where they're ranked. They both are two-loss teams with the same record. Miami won the head-to-head. Right now, the committee is valuing what they've seen more recently compared to the head-to-head. They think Notre Dame is a much improved team compared to where they were in week one. They think Miami has probably regressed a bit or isn't playing as well as they were. So they think Notre Dame should be ranked ahead at this point in the season. And I value head to head as well. That's certainly an argument. It's not Selection Sunday yet. We're only 2 weeks into the playoff rankings. So I don't think the head to head is the be all end all. That being said, come Selection Sunday, if it comes down to it, and Miami is 10-2 and Notre Dame is 10-2, and you're deciding which team gets a chance to play for a national championship and which team has to sit at home and watch the playoffs, I'm not going to like it because I'm a Notre Dame fan, but you have to value head to head. Miami did what they were supposed to do, beat Notre Dame and have the same record. Notre Dame didn't do what they were supposed to do. You have to reward that head to head. Now, if Miami loses another game and has 3 losses, it's not going to matter. Notre Dame loses another game and has 3 losses, it's not going to matter. But if they both win out, then the head to head, I do believe the committee will honor the head to head that Miami has. So now we get into all these ACC teams. The ACC is a mess. Miami is currently the highest ranked ACC team in the rankings, which is fine. But they're like 7th place in the ACC standings. So the chances of them making the ACC championship game are really low. The ACC is almost certainly going to be a one bid league unless it comes down to Miami and Notre Dame, both at 10-2. Then maybe Miami sneaks in. Or they just keep Notre Dame and Miami both out and put someone else in. But the ACC is most likely only going to get one team, and it's going to be the ACC champion. Right now, Georgia Tech is in first place, followed by Virginia, Georgia Tech, not Georgia Tech, Pitt, SMU, Duke, who is somehow only has one conference loss, but just lost to UConn. If Duke wins the ACC, that would be really bad news for the ACC, and they may not even get one bid into the playoffs because it's not the Power Four and a group of 5, it's the 5 highest ranked conference champions. So if Duke wins the ACC, there's a possibility that 2 group of 5 teams get into the playoffs with the American and then either San Diego State maybe or James Madison. So that's what the ACC looks like, top 5, and then Louisville is sitting there at 6 with 2 losses. That's going to be really important to watch for the committee. Now, Miami still plays Georgia Tech. Miami still plays Pitt. Pitt still plays Georgia Tech. So those 3 teams all still have to play each other, and that could sort out the ACC standings as well. But it's really likely the ACC is only going to be a one bid league. And they better hope that Duke does not win the ACC, because if that's the case, they might not get a bid in the playoff. The Big 12 could only see one team in, could see 2. If Texas Tech wins the Big 12, they're only going to get one bid. They have the win over BYU. It's looking more likely that they would play BYU or Cincinnati in the Big 12 championship game because those 2 teams still play each other and they each only have one conference loss. So the winner of that game controls its own destiny to get in the Big 12 championship. And if either of them lose, Cincinnati will have 3 losses total as a conference runner-up. They're not going to get in. BYU will have more than likely just the 2 losses, but it comes to the same team both times. So you can be pretty certain that Texas Tech is better than BYU, and if BYU is unable to win or beat Texas Tech once, they'll have the 2 losses and they'll probably get passed up by another Big Ten or SEC team to take their spot in the playoff. So BYU needs to win out if they want to get in. They're not going to get in with 2 losses. Cincinnati still controls its own destiny, even though it's 25. They win out, they're in the playoff. Now there's some Big Ten teams that could get a 4th spot around the bubble. Ohio State and Indiana are pretty much locks. Oregon has a really good chance to be in the playoffs. Even at 10-2, they still play USC and Washington. They still have them left on their schedule. If they split those, they're probably going to be in. So that's 3 teams. USC currently only has 2 losses. If they win out, there's a good chance they could be a 4th team. Michigan only has 2 losses. If they win out, they'll be 10-2 with a win over Ohio State. You can't leave that team out. So the Big Ten could get 4 teams in if some upsets happen. Those upsets aren't exactly likely, but it could happen, and it's going to be interesting to watch. As far as the reason why I like the way the committee's ranking these teams, they're being consistent with what they were last week, and they ranked them in a way that allows all of the games left on the schedule. I said this in the last video. All the games left on the schedule across college football are going to sort out who should and shouldn't make the playoffs, and it's probably going to be pretty clear. Utah is probably hit a ceiling because of the 2 Big 12 losses to BYU and Texas Tech. They're unlikely to play in the conference championship game, and they're probably not going to win a head-to-head or a direct comparison with BYU because of the head-to-head loss, and BYU is more than likely going to have one more win with the same number of losses. So Utah needs Texas and Oklahoma to lose. Utah needs BYU to lose another game, and they need Cincinnati to lose. And that's really Utah's only path into the playoffs. They have to win out also. Vanderbilt probably not going to get in also because they're in a similar boat as Utah. They have losses to Texas, pretty convincing fashion, and Alabama as well, pretty convincing fashion. And their best win is LSU. That's not a great win. So they also need chaos. They need Texas to lose 2 games to feel comfortable because of the way in which Texas dismantled them. And that's possible. Texas still has to play Georgia, and they still have to play Texas A&M. They also need Oklahoma to lose again, and they need Big 12 teams to lose also, and Notre Dame as well. Notre Dame losing isn't very likely. That's probably going to block Vanderbilt from having a good chance, so they need a lot of chaos elsewhere. So what the playoff would look like if the season ended today: the 1 seed would be Ohio State, the 2 seed would be Indiana, the 3 seed would be Texas A&M, 4 seed would be Alabama, 5 seed would be Georgia, 6 seed would be Texas Tech, 7 seed would be Ole Miss, 8 seed Oregon, 9 Notre Dame, 10 Texas, 11 Miami, and 12 South Florida. So the first teams out would be Oklahoma, BYU. Miami gets the ACC placeholder spot because they're the highest ranked ACC team. and that regardless of them being seventh in the ACC standings, they're still the highest ranked team, so they get the placeholder spot for that conference at the moment. South Florida, ranked at 24, is the highest ranked group of 5 team. They're in the American, so they get that placeholder spot. So that's what the playoff would look like if it ended today. Obviously, there's going to be changes. That's not my personal prediction for what the playoff's going to look like. I'm not going to give that until after conference championship weekend, or right before conference championship weekend, before selection Sunday. You'll see my last playoff prediction. But as far as my rankings reaction, summarized, I think the committee is doing it right now. They're consistent with what they've seen on teams and metrics and analytics. And the teams are all ranked in a way that allows the games that have yet to be played to sort everything out and make it pretty clear, I believe, that the 12 teams who should get in the playoff will end up getting in the playoff. That's going to do it for my rankings reaction for the November 11th edition of the playoff rankings. You'll see my weekend game predictions. I'll have those coming out later this week. If you want to see more college football content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notifications so you don't miss when I upload videos. Like this video, let me know in the comments what you think about the playoff rankings and if you agree or disagree with my personal takes on the show. And I'll see you next time on the John Clancy Show.